In this video, we're going to be solving equations with parentheses. So our only essential question is, how do you solve equations with parentheses? So solving equations with parentheses, we're going to be putting together the strategies we've used so far in solving all of our other equations, but now we're going to add one more step. And we have to eliminate the parentheses. And we're going to do that using the distributive property. Now, if you don't recall the distributive property, it would be good to go back and review that video on the distributive property, because you have to know how to use the distributive property with parentheses in order to solve equations with parentheses. So now we're up to basically a three-step equation. So we've done one-step equations, two-step equations, and then we can think of these as essentially three-step equations, with the first step being eliminate the parentheses using the distributive property, and then we'll solve them like a two-step equation, where we undo any addition or subtraction using properties of equality, and then lastly, undo any multiplication or division using properties of equality. So I have an example here. 3 times 2x plus 5 equals 31. Now we've got parentheses in here, and we really can't do much with the parentheses in the problem as is, so we need to eliminate them using the distributive property. So you'll see that I take everything in the parentheses times 3, and that would be eliminating the parentheses using the distributive property in step 1. So 3 times 2x is where I get my 6x, and 3 times 5 is 15. That's where I get the 15. So now you can see the parentheses are gone, and basically it's a two-step equation, so we should know how to solve it from here. Once that first step is done, it's kind of review, and we've already solved equations like this. So the next step I did was I do the addition by using subtraction. So I subtract 15 from both sides, and then these cancel each other out. I'm left with 6x equals 16. And then I undo the multiplication in the last step here. The opposite of multiplying by 6 is dividing by 6. So I divide both sides by 6. And then that gives me a solution of x equals 2 2/3, or 2.6 repeating. And there's my solution. So really introducing one step to what we already know, and that is using the distributive property to eliminate the parentheses. So let's take a look at some examples of solving equations with parentheses. So here I already have my line dividing my two parts of the equation here, and on the right-hand side is where I have the parentheses with my variable. So I need to eliminate that by using the distributive property. So step 1 here would be multiply everything in the parentheses times -2. The right or the left side of my equation is just going to be 22, and -2 times y is -2y, and then minus -2 times 3. -2 times 3 is -6, but I've got that double sign here, so I'm just going to clean that up. Whenever you have subtracting a negative, remember that's like adding, so I'm just going to change that to +6. That's going to make solving this a lot easier. So that was step 1, was get rid of the parentheses using the distributive property. Now step 2, I need to undo this addition, adding 6, so I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So here's step 2, +6 minus 6, and 22 minus 6 is 16. And these two terms cancel each other out, and I just have -2y. And then now I need to undo this multiplication by using division. I'm going to divide both sides by -2, step 3. And on the left-hand side, that's -8. And then these two cancel each other out, and I'm left with y. And there's my solution. -8 equals y. And then again, I can always plug that back into the original equation and check it, just like I have done with all of my equations so far. But in the interest of time, I'm not going to do that right now in this video, because we've seen it quite a bit. Next one, here I have decimals in my problem, but I'm still going to use the same procedure. First step is to get rid of those parentheses by using the distributive property. I'm going to multiply everything in the parentheses times the 3.2. And remember to multiply everything in the parentheses. A lot of people forget to do that second term. So 3.2 times x is 3.2x. Plus 3.2 times 3.7. 3.2 times 3.7 is 11.84. And then I just have my 4.8 on the right-hand side. So that's step 1, eliminate the parentheses using the distributive property. Now I need to undo this addition. I'm going to do that with subtraction. I'm going to subtract 11.84 from both sides. And then again, these two terms will cancel each other out. I'm left with 3.2x, and 4.8 minus 11.84 is -7.04. So that's step 2. Now step 3, I need to get, excuse me, I need to get rid of that multiplication. I'm going to divide both sides by 3.2. and then these will cancel each other out. I'm left with x on the left-hand side, and negative 7.04 divided by 3.2 is negative 2.2, and then there's my solution. I got x all alone. And again, I can check that, but I'm not going to do that in this video. A couple more. Here I have a fraction outside the parentheses, but I'm still going to do this the same way. Use the distributive property to eliminate the parentheses. I'm going to multiply both of these by 3/8. So the left-hand side is not going to change. 15 is equal to 3/8 times z, which is 3/8 z, minus 3/8 times 5. 3/8 times 5 is 1 7/8, and there's step 1. Step 2, I need to undo this subtraction, so I'm going to add 1 7/8 to both sides. And that's going to eliminate that 1 7/8 on the right-hand side. That becomes 0. And 15 plus 1 7/8 is 16 7/8 is equal to 3/8 z. So that was step 2. Step 3 then is to eliminate this multiplication. I'm multiplying by 3/8, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3/8. 3/8 z divided by 3/8. And again, these two will cancel each other out. All I have is z, and 16 7/8 divided by 3/8 is 45, and there's my solution. Z is equal to 45. And then lastly, 4 times z plus 9 equals 24.8. Again, the first step is to get rid of those parentheses using the distributive property. 4 times z is 4z, plus 4 times 9, which is 36. And then the right-hand side is going to stay the same. Now I have a two-step equation. Step 2 would be to eliminate this addition. I'm going to use subtraction. 4z plus 36 minus 36. Those will cancel each other out. 24.8 minus 36. On the left-hand side, these become 0, and all I have is 4z. And 24.8 minus 36 is 11.2. And that was step 2. Step 3, undo the multiplication. 4 times z, I'm going to divide by 4. And I'm going to divide the right-hand side by 4 as well. Again, these two cancel each other out. Z is equal to 11.2 divided by 4, which is negative 2.8. Solved. So you can see the three-step process there for solving equations with parentheses. Use the distributive property, then it becomes a two-step equation. Undo addition, subtraction, undo multiplication and division.